This is called I Came to My Beloved. I came to my beloved, garlanded with flame, and now my heart is beating to the rhythm of his name. I came to my beloved through sorrow and through pain. My body had been strengthened by wind and sun and rain. My spirit had been beaten by the storms of life, bruised and yet triumphant over sin and strife. I came to my beloved, sheathed in golden flame. My life is now attuned to the music of his name. This one is called He Whom I Love Forever. Out of millions and millions of people, there is one whom I love the best, who in goodness and wisdom and beauty towers above the rest. One face out of millions of faces, one smile that responds to mine, one heart that is filled with compassion and beating with love divine. Though prison walls were about me and chains bound down my feet, yet would my heart go soaring, that beautiful one to greet. Though my soul were fettered and shackled with darkest sin and pain, yet would my heart leap upward to praise my Lord again. He never can really leave me, no matter where he may roam, for my thoughts shall go forth like beacons, guiding the wanderer home. Though thousands of miles are between us, yet are we never apart, for he whom I love forever is imprisoned here in my heart. Say Baba.
Thanks, Ian.
So there was this old farmer up there, and he was just sitting. This is a common thing in Maine. You get your lawn chair out and you put it down at the end of the driveway and you watch the cars go by. So this old farmer was watching the cars go by, and he sees this big Cadillac coming up. And the guy stops and he says, hi there, it's, I'm from Texas. And I'm just checking out farms around here. And do you own this place? And I said, yes, I own it. And he said, well, he said, I just wanted to talk to a Maine farmer. And he said, and so the farmer said, well, how big is your land? He says, well, he says, I could start driving this Cadillac right now, and I wouldn't get there till the end of the day, to the end of my property. And the farmer said, darndest thing, I got a car just like it.
You know, being a musician, sometimes the music grows with you. So I'm going to do a song that everybody knows, but I'm going to do it a little different. Don't think that I'm playing it wrong, it's just intentional.
You must be playing it wrong.
Every minute or two hit enter.
I give him all my love, that's what I do. And if you saw my love, you'd love him too. And I love him. He gives me everything, and tenderly the kiss my lover brings, he brings to me, and I love him. like ours could never die. As long as I have him near me, bright are the stars that shine, dark is the sky. I know this love of mine will never die, and I love him. I give him all my love, that's what I do. And if you saw my love, you'd love him too. And I love him. I love him. This is a newer song I wrote not too long ago. Oh, be still, my heart. The beloved is near. He has come to claim what's already his. No need for you to be strong. Put up a brave fight, for soon you'll be going home into his light. How long have you waited? How long have you yearned? How long have you suffered? How long have you burned? Oh, be still, my heart. The beloved is near. The waves of his love will carry you. No use to flutter your wings or resist his might, for soon you'll be going home into his light. How long have you waited? How long have you yearned? How long have you suffered? How long have you burned? Oh, be still, my heart. The beloved is near. He will lift off the veils from your precious soul. No time to get lost in this world of illusion, for soon you'll be going home into his light. How long have you waited? How long have you yearned? How long have you suffered? How long have you burned? Oh, be still, my heart. The beloved is near. He has come to claim what's already is. No need for you to be strong or resist his might, for soon you'll be going home, going home. Head to his light.
I was reading yesterday somewhere in one of Baba's books, and it says, at the end of his message, he says, when my grace descends, you become me. And I kept repeating that, and I'm wondering, how long do I have to wait?
We're all wondering
Yeah.
that.
So that's all we can do, is the wait. So here they are.
Hi, Jay Baba. You're starting first with this?
No, you're going to start, then I'll do.
Okay. I heard about Mayor Baba in November 1970. I read an article in Rolling Stone magazine by Peter Townsend, and I was instantly, right away, something about Mayor Baba drew me, made me feel that this is for me. I really was strongly attracted. He put an address in the article, and that address I think was Sufism, and I wrote to them and said, oh, send me, he had mentioned Mayor Baba's book, I think, so I said, send me Mayor Baba's book. Thank God they didn't send me God Speaks. I wouldn't have been able to make much out of it. They sent the God Man, and I was really immersed in that. And I graduated high school then in June, and in August came to the center the first time, and of course, like almost everyone, loved it, thought it was just wonderful. For a couple years then, it was a kind of up and down thing of following Baba's and going to Baba House sporadically. In 1975, in 1974, I guess I became really focused on Baba. And I remember in January, Armatiti 75, I came to Baba House for the first time in quite a while, maybe a year, and I met Laurel that day. And Baba House at that New York Baba House at that time was a great place. It was in Greenwich Village, which we were all young. That made it really nice. We got to know people that we still feel really close with over the years. The whole Baba House gang. The society then merged with Baba House years later, and everyone feels very close to each other after a long, long period of time. I think Keith Sheridan's not here. We have like 5 ex-Baba House presidents in this room. If Keith Sheridan was here, you know. But at that time, you had quite a number of people who met Baba, always in the audience. Baba House was open 6 days a week. Darwin Shaw was a speaker every year for a couple of times. Margaret spoke maybe twice a year, the dancers. It was really a great place. And a number of the Baba House people at that time were going to India. And the talk was all of India. So I decided I was going to go. And Laurel wanted someone to go with, and somehow we teamed up. We weren't boyfriend, girlfriend. I kind of thought she was cute, but I liked her, and I don't know if I think she might have not liked me that much. But we went together anyway. Due to all the people at Baba House going to India, I felt like I already knew Mani, Erich, go here to talk. Was so much that I felt I knew the place. I knew Mani and Erich already. There was so much talk about Mani and Erich and Goher and everything. I remember the first trip was 75 for a few months, and after initial little culture shock, due to one, when we landed, it was a heavy monsoon, so the water was coming in the taxis, driving through the Bombay streets. Yeah. But then, and even in Ahmednagar, it was a good rain, so everything was muddy. But of course, like I think most people know, after a while, just going back and forth to Meherzad and Mehrabad, which were beautiful, and the Mandali, whereas everyone knows them, the disciples of Baba were radiant people, and you just loved being around them. And Erich was there talking all day long. You went It was open from 9 in the morning till 6 at night. Leave by 6.
Tell about the
No.
tell about the time when Eric was talking in the hall and stroke, and he laid down. You should tell us.
An aside, on the second trip in 76, then the next year, loved it so much and went back. Just a quick thing, which most people probably know, but if you go now, or if you've gone in the 2000s or even late 90s, you don't see, if you went in the 70s and 80s, you saw India as it was when Baba was there. It's hard to imagine. It is not there now, at least not in that area of Maharashtra. India is halfway modern now and halfway not. But then it was not modern. It was still British. A lot of the flavor of British, especially in the camp where Vilu lived. And the countryside was farms. The houses were those adobe houses. They're almost gone. You can't find one. The road was a sea of bicycles, and the men on the bicycles were all in white, and the women were all in their traditional saris. Now it's very rare to see a turban. A turban has now become, oh look, there's a turban. And a bullock cart is also, that landscape. and there was no electric and no microphones. Yeah. So that when you went out to America, I remember the first time I ever saw the Milky Way was at Mehrabad at night, because there's no light from Mehrabad to Ahmednagar. There's no electric, and even in Ahmednagar the electric goes out 4 days a week, and there's no pollution because there's almost no cars on the road. And that was the first time I saw the Milky Way. I thought, wow, look at that. I live in New Jersey, never saw the Milky Way. And so just to paint a picture that it really was the backdrop that Baba constantly traveled over. We hear Baba was constant. One of the things Eric said is we spent half of our lives sleeping on railway platforms because of constant travel until the second accident. And it was that backdrop of almost being biblical. It changed so much that you can hardly recognize it right now. Matter of fact, I've spent about 11 years worth of time on and off in India, and I've been down that road to Mehrabad 1,000 times, and if I'm on it now, I don't know where I am. If you put me on it now, I don't know where I am. So it's just like how dedicated Erich is and how much he gave to everyone. I remember in 76, coming into Mandali Hall, and several people are around Erich, and he's talking, and I got to know at least Erich's ways by this time, of how dedicated he is. And we all know you don't put your feet out at Baba's. You all heard that, everyone heard this. You know the different etiquette. And Erich is leaning like this, and people are asking, there's about 5 people asking him questions. I could see he doesn't feel well. And I'm a dumb kid at the time. I said, Erich, you don't feel well. He gave me a look like, hey, mind your own business. But then he actually laid down with his feet out and was answering someone's question, and it clicked in my mind, oh, this is not right.
Feet pointing towards Baba's chair.
Yeah. And I went outside, and Vesta was there. At that time, Vesta was staying at Mehrabad. She was the main caretaker, Mehrabad, a Westerner, helper of the Mandali. And she went back, got Goher. Goher took one look at him, took him out, and he had a stroke. He was sitting there. He was sitting there talking while he had a stroke.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was the second trip for a few months. The next, about a year later, I came back for, I think, about 9 months, maybe more. And that solidified my feeling that I wanted to stay longer. I asked for an entry visa, and they said yes, and then I came back a little over a year later on an entry visa. That's around end of 79. My first couple months there on the entry visa, I stayed in Mayor Colony. And I often think now, wow, at the time I didn't know how to talk, to socialize and act and ask things. Like many nights I sat up with Gun and Nashuan, Erich's uncle. I never thought, wow, Nashwan has such a great story. The little bit of his story now that I read, I love. You know, they're walking down the farm road to Mehrabad and they see this man who they think looks like Zoroaster. I just love that little bit. Why at the time I didn't know to get a longer life story from him. Craig Ruff was staying in the trust office at that time, and his father became ill. He went home to be with his father, and Mani said, oh, okay, now there's no Westerner, no caretaker in the trust office. You go stay in Craig's room while he's gone. And in the room also was Bauji. So Bauji was my roommate for my first couple months in the trust office. And so then, first off in the trust office, again, it's old India. That's old India. So, and there were duties involved if you stay in the trust office. One was to help out. One was to see if Khurshid needed anything. At that time, Khurshid came and went. She wasn't staying permanently. She had a flat in Bombay. And the other was to take care of an old disciple of Baba, Faram, working Bakswala. One of my first lessons of staying in the trust office was, you know, everyone knows there's women's arti. It was a day women's arti. Oh, it's women's arti. I got on my bike, I cycled out to Mehrabad, attended women's arti, came back. The next day, because at that time I started working at Merazad in the dispensary. So I'd be at Merazad many days, most of the days, all day. And Eric said, where were you yesterday? I said, what? He said, where were you? I said, it was women's arti, I went to arti. He said, you know, so-and-so came into the trust office yesterday. It must have been a day with no office help there. And Paul must have been out somewhere, official, he was constantly working. Someone came in the trust office yesterday and, you know, it was, I can't remember the name, somebody. Where were you? So I went to women's arti. Arti? We don't go to arti. He means the men. Erich, Bal, Alaba, and we don't go to arti. Arti is seeing who's coming in the trust office. Yeah.
Art's on the nose.
Huh? Yeah. And there were things that I look back on now were charming. Anyone remember to place a phone call to call your mother? You had to book the call. So we did this, those of us who were caretakers in the trust office, you book the call for the person, you call an operator, I want to place a trunk call to USA, blah, blah, blah. And you wait 2 hours or 3 hours for the call to come, and then you shout, hello? Hello? Yeah, Ma, can you hear me? Yeah. And that would be like $40. Another one was the means of communication, way before the internet, much better, much nicer, much more friendly, was telegram. And the person in the trust office, the man came on his bicycle, rang his bell, you went and got the telegram, gave him 50 paisa, signed it, and then if Erich or Mani or whoever is sending a telegram, you got on your bicycle and brought it over to the to the telegraph office and sent it. And it was one of the duties. It was a part of it was, if it's important, bring it out to Merazad. There's no telephone at Merazad. Merazad did not have a telephone. The nearest telephone was in what's called the pump station. The pump station was by the reservoir. So, right, if supposing, I can't remember if it was Elizabeth, or it was probably, they knew Elizabeth might pass, and Eric said, you know, if it's someone they really know, a close person, Eric said, whenever that telegram comes, just bring it out here. You know, it came, I remember it came early in the morning. I think it was Elizabeth and Kitty and others who passed away. After a while, he had nicknamed me Angel of Death. These nicknames always change. So I started to, once I got there, I said, what are you going to do here? I don't know. He said, well, why don't you go ask Dr. Goher, maybe he could help her. So I started to work in a dispensary, and I learned, Goher showed me how to put on bandages and dressings and give injections, and I probably spent about 6 years worth of time in the dispensary, and I once figured out that I probably gave about 5,000 or 6,000 injections, which I don't think nurses in the West do that. Because in the village, the dispensary was beautiful, because it was Gohir and Katie, and the villagers we loved them. They were really charming, and they loved Gohir, and it was part of the whole landscape of Marizan. After the dispensary, 1 o'clock, then either Erich or Mani are in the hall, or Mara was on the porch, and spend the whole day at Marizan till 6 at night for a long time. Everyone remembers Erich used to take people up the hill. That was part of the thing, was going up the hill with Erich. Then you come back down, and as he would come through the garden, Erich knew all the plants and trees. My father planted this clove tree. Oh, this is a pomegranate tree. This spice is used for this. He knew all that.
What about that story with Gohir, rubbing her in?
Being around Baba's disciples a lot, it gave me a kind of my own view on Baba, which maybe is natural for me, and not taking away from the high road that Baba says. Baba, we all have heard how Baba would want people, if someone passed away, he would send people to the movies, don't mourn, the person has come to me, they're happy. And that is a high message of Baba. But I would also find that at the end of the dispensary day, be 100 people, 100 villagers would come, and some of them would get bandages, some of them would get injections, some of them just would be treated by Gohir or Shelley or whatever. At the end of that session, around 1 o'clock, it usually ended, the people who were working in the dispensary sort of gathered around Gohir's desk for just chatting. And I remember Dada Chanji, I'm not sure who it was, I think it was Marabus.
Dara Dada Chanji.
Dara Dada Chanji had died suddenly.
And
And I remember standing behind Gohir and looking over her shoulder. She's writing a letter, and she's very upset. Gohir was very upset. What can we say at this time? The only thing we could do is send our love to you and hope that Baba sustains you. And so things like that gave me a different perspective on. I think the two go together, the high and the normal human. Mm-hmm. Now the only two, Oliver, when someone who they knew well died, Oliver would his face would be like, the only two Mandali I know who seem to have be not affected by the suffering, subnormal worldly pain is Erich and Padre. I didn't know Padre well because I rarely got out to Mehrabad. But I was around Erich a lot, quite often from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. And but so the other side of that coin is, I remember in one of the earlier trips, Merji Mama, who is Gai Mai, Erich's mother, Gai Mai's brother. He was the older brother, if anyone can picture him in his bed, 90 years old, with a pointy kupalini on like a Tibetan Lama, and in Akbar Press. And he died. And I remember standing next to Erich and his mother, Gai Mai, where he's being buried, not far from Mehrabad. And Gai Mai was weeping, right? And Erich looked at her, he said, "This isn't right of you. You've spent your whole life at his feet. This is not right for you to act like this." So it's like two different views. Yeah. Especially the first 2.5 years on entry visa, but almost all the time. Probably for most, it just is like a golden time. Marizad is golden. All the Mandali are there. The landscape around is beautiful. You went up the hill with Erich. He took you to the village. You sat on Mara's porch in the afternoon. The women had tea. Erich spoke in the hall. It was beautiful. It really was a great time. I didn't have real work. Working in the dispensary is more like a 9-to-5 job. It's just simple. Many of the residents had work that there's pressure on. Things you had to do for pilgrims, for the Mandali. But working in a dispensary wasn't like that. It just for me, I never really went through any crisis or pressure, and I didn't work with one Mandali. Like Laurel worked with Mani very closely, Heather worked with Mani very closely, Devana with Erich. So I didn't have that. Erich would ask me, would you do this? Goer would ask me, would you do that? Mayor would ask. Often I did things at Mayor gardening, fixed a garden. I never felt any real stress. It was just what I can only look back on it and see, wow, it was really beautiful to be at Maryside every day in that really special time when all were there. One of the duties of the compound of being in the trust office was taking care of Faram working Bakswala. And I don't know how many people have met Faram. He is like a real cantankerous, old. It's an interesting thing that Baba says, you're evolving, and the culmination is God realization. You realize God, you have become one with God. If you meet Framji and live with Framji and you say, this is the, and it was said that Baba said, Framji is on his last life, this is it. You will wonder about that. We loved him. He is a cantankerous, that's the only word I could use, we loved him. He had very bad, like this, and his clothes.
He was tall, he was skinny, he was scabby, he was...
He didn't like women, he didn't like the servants, he didn't like anyone. But he didn't like women, but his pen pals with Ina Lemon.
Okay.
One lady from Australia. And he didn't like the servants, he didn't like a lot, as a matter of fact, so we used to go, and every night, Craig, John, Connor, and I would go in, rub his back, and he had to be treated for asthma, and I used to give him an injection for asthma. And so we go in, and every night, I always thought he has two sanskaras, God and anger. Because he gets angry easily. Don't touch my things. And,
well, once he was walking outside in the compound, and Adi had an old dog named Tommy. Tommy was a big furry dog, very, very sweet. And Tommy was just laying around on the ground, wagging his tail. Ramji goes by, wag, wag, wag.
So he used to read Kabir to us each night. He had Kabir's poetry, and he'd read it. And when he'd read it, he'd really feel it. So I remember once he's reading this couplet, a poem of Kabir, and there were especially a couple of servants he really didn't like. They were very good. We loved them. And so he's reading this. He says, see, God, Kabir says, God is in everything. God is, if we only knew this. When I was a boy, I'd kick a stone, kick a ball. God is in the ball, God is in the stone. If we only knew this, we would love everyone. And at that moment, that lady walked by. We would love everyone, but what can we do? We don't like some people. And Mani would, and Framji was well famous in the Mandali. Mani would say, any good Framji story today?
He came every day to the trust office to have tea. In the trust office, Mani, Erich, they were just sitting having tea every day. He'd come down the hallway, scratching that scab, and they'd make a big fuss over him. Avo, Faramji! Feram Foss. Mani called him Feram Foss, which is a homeopathic thing. Anyway.
You're on.
Okay, I'm on? Well, just the other day, I happened by accident to find this poem written by Mani in 1942. So I thought I'd read it out. This is by Baba's sister Mani. To his disciples, Baba says, do what I tell you with love and zest. Leave to me the entire rest. Even failure does not mean a thing when you have tried your very best. Live in the world and play your part. Renounce the world within your heart. And in the life that comes and ends, strive for the end that has no start. Fast when you're hungry, eat when you're not. Keep cool as a cucumber when you're boiling hot. No matter what soup or fix you're put in, don't ever forget to prove a sport. Have your feelings but know them untrue. Look sunbeams and smiles when feeling all blue. Whatever the path I've chalked out for you, keep going. Why stop to argue? I shall give you what you wish and more, but not when you wish to get it, be sure. To wait and just to wait is what you must learn to endure. Don't grumble and cry at your share and lot. Don't think I've forgotten and love you not. Remember, what you get from the ocean of love depends on the size of the vessel you've got. When doubts and grief knock at heart's door, tell them you don't live there anymore, but slowly climbing blade-like steps, shifting to the 7th floor. That's Armani. Very, very right. What?
She wrote that?
Mani wrote that in 1942 to his disciples. Baba says.
In 42.
That's what it says here. And boy, I mean that's to me that really not only does that sum up her or whatever I've gathered from being around her. I mean, I always thought that. I always loved Mani and I adored her, and she was so much fun and she was so interesting, and she told stories and she sang songs and she passed around things that she made, and she was so lighthearted, and it never occurred to me that that she was tired at times or sick at times or whatever the thing might be. No, thank you. It never occurred to me that she was, I just thought that's just the way she is, and that's the way, and it is the way she is. She wants, but of course she was a regular person too, and in a sense. After Maraiya died, we had been residents in India, then we went home, then we would visit for short trips. I had a regular job, and then it just so happens that after Maraiya passed away, we decided, forget the job, we want to go and spend more time in India, so we would spend 4 or 5 or however much, maybe
5 or 6.
whatever we could manage, and then I'd work temp work. Anyway, thing is, at that point, I had always worked in the trust office from the very beginning, and I continued to do that. But then I had an opportunity to stay at Marizad. One day I came to Marizad, not as a pilgrim so much, but I think it was a day that Mani was there, and I had started going to Marizad when Mani was there. Can't remember the details. Anyway, I walked into the house, and Mani was sitting on that nice comfy chair there. Janet Jetson was there. And I came in to go into Baba's room, and Mani looked up at me and said, "Have you talked to Gohair?" I went, "No." "Talk to Gohair." And she gave me a look. I don't know. I don't know what it meant. So anyway, okay. Went over to see Gohair in the dispensary. utterly clueless as to what was going on. And Goher said to me, Casey has to go. Casey was then with Devana and Jelly living at Marizad, and Casey was sort of Monty's little right-hand person, helped out Monty a lot. And Casey has to go to America for medical reasons. And can you come and to stay at Marizad and help Monty? I mean, she could barely get the words out, and I said, yes! Because it was like my life's dream to do such a thing, to be that, because I loved her, I adored her. And yeah, so as a result of that, I knew the office side of Monty, which was terrific, and then I got to know the home side of her as well, and that's when I got to see, oh, of course she's after the Pilgrims leave and all, she's tired, and she changes out of her lovely outfits into her home clothes. It never occurred to me that she didn't walk around in these wonderful polka dot outfits with the earrings and all that thing. And I must have said something. She goes, oh, well, this is for our royal family, Baba's family. Just do it for, the king's family. And I like that very much. Well, anyway, one day, so then when you're there, living there and there to help out, it's of course a different story and a slightly different relationship, which I also love very much, and it was an opportunity to really tune into her, and because I was there to help her, that was the point. And in fact, that first day, they'd go and wave goodbye to the bus, everybody, including, the resident type of people. Waved goodbye to the bus, and the bus left, and we turned around and to walk back to the house, and we were just at that building where Gustaji used to live, and Monty put her arm around my shoulder. I don't know why, but it was a terrifying moment. It really was. There's something in me that was like, she was like, I got you now. And I was, but anyway, soldiered on, and one day she demonstrated to me, she was incredible. I mean, she was such a, everybody knows she was a great mimic, and of course a great storyteller and all that. His family, Baba did it, the whole family did it. They were wonderful, expressive. And one day she showed me how she could smile, just from a blank face, smile, and then go down again. And the thing is, she was putting it on. She was showing me, that smile, bright smile, and then down. And when she did it, that smile, I believed it, absolutely. Even, intellectually I knew she was just acting, but I absolutely felt it and believed it. I mean, just that split second. Quite an incredible person. And then there's a line in this poem that I like very much that I think it's important to remember if you ever want to be around Meher Baba or whatever he'll be called in the future. Don't ever forget to prove a sport. Very British sounding. To be a sport. Be a good sport. Eric would say it too. Baba wants you to be a good sport. And if you could be a good sport, despite being teased or whatever the thing is, don't you know what I'm talking about, Glenn? Yeah. If you could be a good sport, that's what Baba would want. You to be a good sport. Very hard to do in certain circumstances. And what can I say about that?
Can I butt in?
You can. You must.
It is true that the Mandali, Baba's disciples, especially the main communicators, Mani, Erich, Goher, would really pour on for the pilgrims. They come out more. That's natural. You do when guests come to your house. It is true, but because I was there a lot in, let's say, after hours, and sometimes stayed at Merzad, I found the company to be even better with the hair down. It was one of my favorite times of day.
Or as Marty would say, the hairs. The hairs.
Yeah, my favorite time of day is mail call. When the trust car comes back in the evening, it came back, of course, earlier and earlier as the years went by, but at first it would come back at 6 o'clock, or 5:30, 6 o'clock, and everyone is there except Meru and Mara. They don't come and mix, they stay on that side. But along the benches on the veranda, Alaba, Pendu, Bal, Mani, Go Here, Katie, Naja, and if Shelley, then after Shelley and Devana and Casey were there in Falu, and Erich does roll call, and he calls out the names, and it was actually the best part of the day. It was so nice and like hanging out with family under the grapevine or something.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I never had a conversation with any of the Mandali. I just sitting there really loved it.
And you know what I found once also, and then Money, you know, if it was just something she would be telling a story or whatever, not every
They're chatting
time.
back and forth in
Yeah,
Gujarati.
I
I don't know what they're even saying.
No,
really.
not every time, but I still remember her telling a story just like she would tell us at the trust office or something, because at the trust office she was really relaxed. I could talk about that. And they all really enjoyed it too.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, they're really getting a kick out of her, and they've all lived together for decades. Of course, the women on one side, men on the other. But then after Baba, the men and the women had a lot more to do with each other. And so she's telling something, can't tell you what, because I don't remember. And they were really getting a kick out of it. I'm like, oh yeah, she does that for them too.
It was a natural time of the day.
Yeah.
Erich would walk up and down, Ali Akbar Shapur Zaman, Gohar Irani, and Ali Akbar Shapur Zaman is Alaba. And I've heard Mani say the first time this happened after Baba passed away, because till Baba, when Baba was still there, they didn't do this. The women still stayed there. Mani came for work, and she said, who's Ali Akbar Shapur Zaman? Yeah.
That's sweet. That is fantastic. Oh, I love that. What else should we talk about? Because we could talk about anything in the world. Well, you know what I loved? We could talk a little bit about the trust office and being in the trust compound, because Vinod is there and he lived there as a child. So but we could bring it back to the trust office.
I'll come to the trust office. I'm just remembering one small lesson I first had was that in the first summer I was there, I was the only Westerner in the trust office or doing gopher things around Merzad, because Shelley hadn't come yet, Casey hadn't come yet, Devana hadn't come yet. And for the first few months I was there, and so I'd go out to the dispensary because I love Erich. After the dispensary, I would sometimes cycle back because Erich is in the trust office, and I could go sit in the back and just sit there and listen. And so once he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, the dispensary's over. He said, oh no, Pendu's there all alone. You can't come here. He said, you have to go and be there with Pendu. So for quite a while, a lot of the afternoons after the dispensary, I was with Pendu and help him go to the bathroom and help him sit him down for lunch, and because he was, he couldn't walk well. But that, I remember in wanting to come back to the trust office and hang out with Erich. Yeah. But yeah, the trust office, we love the trust office. We all became friends, Craig, John, Devana, Casey. Bauji would often come over and sit in our dinner, and you'd hear stories all night long. Yeah. The trust office was hard to live in though, physically, because you're in the city, and Vinod probably knows, right outside the wall, well, in Vinod's time, probably not as loud, would be weddings in wedding season, with speakers so loud that if they were in here, the walls would shake. And that would go on till like 3 in the morning very often. Many telephone calls would come in. People would call at 3 in the morning and say, I want to book reservations. Oh, where are you? New York? You know what time it is here? Oh, right, yeah.
That happened all the time.
All the time.
Wasn't
on.
funny at the moment.
But we didn't mind.
I could tell a little funny story. I don't know how long we're supposed to blather on, but anyway.
On all night.
I do have a little slideshow.
Oh yeah, he has a slideshow, which is very
It's
nice.
only like 7 minutes.
Maybe 10. Anyway, one day, so the trust car would come in, honk honk, and all of us gang, trust office gang, including Steve, and we'd be there waiting for the Mandali. Monty, Erich, Bob, Ronald, when she was there. And anyway, one day, Pat and Irene had two birds, Salt and Pepper. And Salt and Pepper had an egg, so it was very exciting. And so, and maybe the egg hatched. The bird's name was November. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, they came and they right out of the car, they told Monty about the blessed event. So it was very exciting. And Monty started going like this. Okay. And now, and that evolved. You know how the Tibetans do the prayer wheel? You don't even have to say the prayer with your mouth because the prayer is written and it's in the wheel and you just turn it, and when you turn the prayer wheel, well, the prayer goes out. And somehow she just did that. And what you do if you're a Zoroastrian, apparently, is to ward off the evil eye. You say Numakado, Numakado, name of God, Numakado. I used to hear Mara say it all the time. Oh, she was a beautiful bride, Numakado. Well, what a cute chubby baby. Literally, Gulnar, who's Baba's niece and Mani's niece, had brought her grandchild, Maraiya, to the trust office one day. Chubby baby, Marinaz's son. And I said, oh, what a cute baby. And Mani goes, Numakado. You have to say, Numakado, ward off the evil eye. You don't just say it's a cute baby, because then something will happen to the baby. And, oh, I love your blouse, Numakado. Otherwise, you'll dribble on your blouse or something like that.
Or otherwise known as Gunahar.
Well, if you're Jewish, it's kind of hard. Well, everybody's got it. So Numakado. So that, and then so they told her about the egg or the bird or whatever it was, and she does the prayer wheel and says Numakado, and that became the Numakado prayer wheel. You don't even have to say Numakado, you just go like that. And also one day I was back having tea with Erich, along with everybody else in the world.
Especially in Mani's gang with her girls had their,
Yeah, a lot of fun.
They did all these routines, they came up with all these little inside
Running
jokes.
jokes all the time. It was a lot of fun, and it was really lovely at the trust office. Money, she ruled the roost, wouldn't have it any other way, and she had no other interference. It was really lovely. Except when Erich would go, this is a trust office, is this the place for laughing, whatever we'd get up to. And anyway, one day, so Erich is having tea, and Devani gives him some cracker or biscuit that nobody else was getting. Of course, it was Erich. And I go, ooh, that looks good. And he picked up his cracker, and he went, he goes, don't put the evil eye on my biscuit. Now the Parsis, the thing is you take an egg and you wave it over your head, that also wards off the evil eye.
Now, all these things they did,
It's
and
part
Baba
of the-
discouraged superstition, but they did all these things sort of tongue-in-cheek. If you just hear it, you say, are they observing superstition? But if you see it, you see it's a kind of natural, humorous thing.
Yeah. So anyway, so I started doing that, of course, I have to ward off the evil eye. And then there's the Numakado prayer wheel. And the Numakado prayer wheel just became a thing, at the trust office with Monty and the gang. and everywhere you'd be talking, da-da-da-da, somebody would come in, oh, nice outfit. And then, and she'd sort of spring up and we did the rope-a-doper, wheel at each other. It was just a lot of fun, and it was just one of the many, many charming and funny things, and very adorable. And then there's the rest of the story. So we were home, and we get a phone call one early morning, 4 in the morning. It's my mother. And my father had a massive stroke, and he wasn't going to survive. Out of the blue, perfectly healthy. And so we rushed to the hospital. Sure enough, later in that day, he died. He was 67 years old. And out of the blue. He had just been to the doctor who gave him a clean bill of health. And so it was terrible. It was shocking. It was terrible. And it was just awful. And it was, I don't know. It was really the first time that death had been so close to me. And so my mother arranges the funeral, and we go for the funeral, and the rabbi is there. And this was when I was a kid. I had to go to Hebrew school. He was the rabbi, Reform, very liberal and all of that. I hadn't seen him in years, so he said, I'd like to speak to each of the children, me and my brother and my sister, separately before the funeral. Okay, so I go in to talk to him, and he's like, oh, Laurel, how are you? And how have you been, and what have you been doing? The last time he saw me, I was a teenager or something, and now I was 35, I think I was. I said, well, I spend a lot of time, since I've seen you and I've grown up, I spend a lot of time in India. He said, really? And do you do a lot of this there? And I was just like, yes. Like, only Mayor Baba could find just the right thing out of the blue. Has anybody ever said to you, do you do this? Like, oh my God, Baba, incredible.
Wow. Now we don't want to bore them too much.
I mean, as I said, we can go on for hours, which we won't.
Now, I have I could
and I have
run
something
this.
to say.
Oh, say it.
Glenn is going to show you. He's an artist, and he wants to show you some of the drawings and that he did while he was in India over the years. That short thing. But I had two things to say.
Say.
One was, or maybe you want to say about how Erich would always not be happy about you sketching.
I'll say that.
Okay, you can say that. And then the other was just an interesting little story in life. When we were residents there, a bunch of people came up with the idea of the residents to put together a little newsletter, the residents' newsletter. So everybody was, I don't know if you remember that, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was responsible. You did a little article or a little something. Mm-hmm. And there was a little question and answer, like a quiz about the residents. And the question about Glen was, what is Glen's favorite thing to draw? And the answer was, ladies with pots on their head, Indian.
I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so we put together this thing, and we gave a copy to Mommy, and she didn't like it. She did not like this thing. She didn't like the tone of it. The whole thing. She just
The newsletter.
The newsletter.
Oh, okay.
She didn't like the tone of
I don't
it.
remember.
It just struck her as yah, which you may have seen that. Yah. Baba would use that. It means icicle. It's something that just
Leaves you cold.
leaves you cold. You never want to be yah. Never. And she didn't say that, but you could tell that she really just she didn't like it. Okay. And Heather's sort of, looking at it with her and pointing things out. She goes, "Oh, look! there is Glen. What's Glen Magrini's favorite thing to draw? And Money goes, oh, that's ridiculous. Of course, it's Baba and Mara. And I was about to butt in. This was something I learned a lot from, other people, because I have a lot to learn. I was about to go, no, you're buying ladies with pots in their head. And she didn't go like that, but Heather just went, yes, right, very good. And I learned to keep my big mouth shut. You had to really tune into the mood, and that was important. To be sensitive to the mood of the Mandali. Because in the future, you hopefully will be in a position to be sensitive to the mood of the avatar.
Let it go, it'll run out.
Anyway, that was just a little story.
I didn't know
that.
that.
Story. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't remember.
So I get my
one of the
trash
things
done.
that I did was my hobby is sketching, and of course it was a great subject, the Marabad, the land around Marabad. Most of my, in the first few years, the city, Ahmednagar city, was small. Old buildings, mostly half are knocked down now and are concrete, great old architecture, old designs, and very ornate. And as soon as you got out of the city, it was a beautiful bike ride. You could ride two abreast and talk for most of the way. I can remember I used to hitchhike too. There were times I'd have to sit at the dune. Sometimes I'd hitchhike from the dune, sit at the dune reading a book for 5-10 minutes before a truck would come by. Now we look like this to get across and run.
Now we have to go
So
under
the landscape was beautiful.
4-lane highway.
As soon as you got out of the city, it was a beautiful Deccan landscape. Farms, people, women with pots on their heads that's very artistic, and other things. I have a little slideshow of those drawings, and I don't know if you could see it from the back, and it takes about under 10 minutes. Should we run it?
Yeah.
Which you did despite Eric's
No, Erich is not against me sketching. He's against me not spending 100% of my time in service. I don't know if you could see that. That's Baba's house with a lady with baskets. That's a Marathi person, a Parsi, and a Christian. These are old men in front of Baba John's tomb. This man is the Mujawar. Mujawar, is that how you say it? He's the caretaker, and he's waving a little thing at the incense burner in front of Baba John's tomb. Villagers. I've done so many drawings like this. Can people see it?
Yeah.
Fantastic work.
Old man in the bazaar selling apples or something. A street scene. Villagers in the bazaar. I was in the bazaar every night because I used to do like gopher things. Goher would want medications, and Meru would want wood and metal, and so that was one of the things. That's the flower wala, food wala, the brass wala. He's in front of, behind the scales. Then in the dispensary, people would be in a line here, and they'd have to wait till the doctor said what they do. So often I would sketch them. And because they were very familiar with me, they didn't mind. They even got into it. They'd love it. They'd look at the picture and say, oh, no, put this man there, don't do this. These are all people sitting on the bench in the dispensary, waiting to be seen by the doctor or waiting for their medication.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
It's good.
Excellent.
Was she the 100-year-old woman? No?
Wow.
That's me.
God, look at that.
They look so decent.
Can you all see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Glenn, it's
They're
fantastic.
gonna hit you with.
Oh, wow.
In India at that time, little children took care of littler
You're
children.
right.
It says 100-year-old lady. Whether she was 100 years old or not, I don't know, but they all said exile, exile, 100 years old. I mean, I have so many drawings. This is just a selection, and I probably have, hundreds.
These are
of-
great.
hundreds of
We
these.
should do this more often.
And what I'm doing is,
The new baby.
she's sitting on the bench and I'm looking down and drawing her. She was happy about it. So just looking down at this grandmother holding the newborn on her lap.
With a tattoo on your hand.
A fakir, wandering fakir.
Fuck you.
Now that type of home is gone. They're all concrete. The adobe home that was right down the road from Marizad, same thing. You very rarely will see this. That was on the road to Mehrabad. Quiet road. This is on the road to Pune, the Deccan. This is also the Deccan.
Wow.
That's Seclusion Hill from the road from Ahmednagar. You can't see that view now. In the bazaar of the door of a mosque. Right outside of the town, it became country, and this mosque was just right outside. This is in one of those mosques, an old man praying by a hurricane lantern. The landscape.
Do you have all of these paintings still?
Do I have what?
Do you have all of the paintings still?
Yeah.
I wonder.
And this is a favorite place of mine to go on the way home from Marizad in the summer. Was Ahmednagar is named after Ahmed Shah, the king of that area in, I don't know, in the 1500s. And his tombs are there, and these are out, and it's right outside of the city, only a 5-minute bike ride from the trust office. And it was, in the 80s, beautiful landscape, because it was on the city ended, the dry riverbed was there, but because there's a dry riverbed, the groundwater is good, so there are many wells, so there's all beautiful fields, terraced all along that edge of the city and dotted with these tombs where the Ahmed Shah complex is. And often in the summer, I go and sit there because there's water running, there's shade in the trees, and it was a little cooler and charming. I go sit and read. And all these people were used to me, so I could draw their picture, and they knew me pretty well. That's the complex at night. That's his tomb. This is daytime. See, everyone is sort of working here. There's a well over there. It was a little cooler, even though it's 105, 6 degrees. In the evening, water would be running through all the irrigation of the fields. It had a nice, cool feeling. That's the same place. That's that tomb. That's Ahmed Shah's tomb. That picture is much smaller, so when the picture is taken from. Then these ladies are there also. They're harvesting
Gas,
which is clover, like for animals.
Alfalfa.
Alfalfa.
Like you. They don't wear these saris anymore. You just,
That's a
you
poem
don't
by Kabir.
change, I tell you.
It's a poem by Kabir, and in English it says, inside is the sun and the moon, inside is 1,000 stars, inside is the rivers and the oceans, and then it ends with Kahe Kabir Suno Bhai Sadhu Yaha Me Guru Amara Hamara. Right? You know? Did you follow it? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
In here is your guru, with inside is your guru. And that's the gate of Arangown. These people are the caretakers of an old temple in Arangown, which has been knocked down and rebuilt in concrete. Old, and this is that temple. It doesn't look like that. This is the road to Mehrabad. This is all buildings. You can't see that.
I know, they're fantastic. Really beautiful.
This is the common drinking water pot. They call it a matka or chatty. Chatty?
Beautiful.
And she was sitting this is at the bus station right outside the trust office. Sometimes I take the ST bus to Maraiya in the morning, 50 paisa, and crowd in there with 100 people, and she was sitting there. That's the back door of Maraiya, of Mandali Hall, the back door of Mandali Hall. And this is the road to Maraiya. You can't see this. That's all buildings. That's sunset, leaving Maraiya. Because I had a bike at first, and I would stop along the road and sketch, put my things on the bike, and then after a while I had a motorcycle, and I could sketch on the motorcycle, stop the motorcycle. I did it almost every day.
Did you fill
That's
in the
behind-
color later?
Huh?
Did you take the watercolors with you, or
Yeah.
did you fill in the watercolor later?
Something like that I painted on site. Some of the line drawings, if it's a line drawing, usually I drew the pen and ink or the line and put color in later. And many like this I know I paint on site. The only hard part of painting on site is I would usually attract a crowd.
Yeah.
And people are saying, no, don't put that one there. No, wait. Put me in it. You know, and, it was dangerous because this is a road. There could be 20 people behind me and cars are going by. That's behind Maraiya, looking at the house in the garden, in the back garden, on the way up to Seclusion Hill. This chair. I've done many like this. I don't do Mani, Mera, and Baba because I find that if I don't do Baba right, it's not Baba. So I'd have to get to be much better to do Baba.
Looks like pastel.
I think Mani has still in Maraiya, in what was her office, a really nice watercolor done by her brother, Bayram, of a village
watercolor.
scene.
Many,
So
he
she
did
liked
many.
this kind of thing. That was just, of course, the moment there.
This is right near Maraiya. Those are the distant hills. In, they're not Seclusion Hill. That's out there by Happy Valley. This is over. I'm over by the lake, looking back towards Seclusion Hill. Pimplegown Lake. Again, a scene on the way to Maraiya, which you can't see. And it says Hotel Shri. It's a little
That's the
hotel.
hotel, it's made out of bamboo
Yeah,
mat.
hotel.
Hotel.
Back of Maraiya.
They don't use bullocks anymore to
Very
come.
rare to see
You
bullock
know,
carts.
a song that the women Mandali like very much, and which actually, when Mani was sick and, her last illness there, that we sang a lot was, "Those Were the Days."
Oh yeah, that was a big hit. Those
Yeah,
were the
they
days.
loved it because it reminded them of being with Baba, and
Yeah.
now we think of it, of those were the days of India at the time, but mostly of being with the Mandali.
That sort of abstract expressionist of the samadhi door at night. It's much darker than that. On the screen here, all of these are much lighter than they are, and that's the back veranda of Maraiya Mandali Hall. And this would be Galori Shah here, and that's the pump room. Theos knows.
See that
Yeah.
little
And
road?
that's the quiet road of Maraiya.
That is now a 4-lane highway. You can't cross over it. You have to go under. They're now building that. Yeah. Those were
Baba's
the
cabinet.
days, my friend.
And that's Mani sitting next to Baba's chair. From behind, she's talking in Mandali Hall. This is one I like. I did long ago, so it's more in a primitive, naive style, which I draw more realistically. One of the reasons I like it a lot, this is the last one in the slideshow, is I once showed it to Mani, and you could see it's a place that near Bingar, another little haunt, because it was very scenic, fields and beautiful temples and people. Craig, John, and I, in the summer, once in a while, went there for a picnic, just brought a lunch sit there. And I like it. It has all those little features in it. I showed it to Mani, and she said, "Oh, nice. Now I don't have to go there."
Wow.
It's much darker than that. And the opposite end of the coin is that one time, Arich saw me sketching in Mandali Hall, and he came up, he said, "Why are you whiling away your time like this? Baba's lovers are here, you should be of service to them." All right, we walked away. But to be fair to myself, it was lunchtime, and I do take people up the hill and to Pimple Gown and everywhere, and I do try and help. But to Erich, that's not enough. In Erich's day, there was nothing for himself. There was no, now it's time to relax and, do something. It just wasn't there. So that's Erich. So two sides of the coin on that.
What a treasure to have now.
Huh?
What a treasure to have all that now.
Yeah,
It's a treasure for us.
Yeah, and we are.
Keep scanning, keep scanning.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I have boxes of them.
You need to
I originally
figure
started
out
off
something.
with a small amount of 200. Laurel said, "That's too much, you got to cut it down." I cut it down to 90, I think. Yeah.
Oh, no, we love it.
Very nice.
Very nice indeed. Beautiful.
Okay, bye.
Secrets. Okay, this song everybody sings with me because it's a sing-along. It's a sing-along. When the night has gone and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, Baba, Baba, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and I can't hear ya. I got you. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. Baba, Baba, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. One more time. Baba, Baba, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me.